Hi, welcome to Heuristic Mathematics. I'm Miss Janelle. Today we're going to go through some of the heuristic questions that I think most students will actually struggle from P5 to P6. And also, previous session we actually went through some of the spacious visualization questions that I say that most, if not all, of the students will actually have difficulty solving them or visualizing them. So these two are like the biggest struggles that I see most of the students actually be not able to solve till the end, or some of them cannot even start the question. So I'm only doing like the 4 and 5 marks, and then if you actually still find yourself having difficulties after completing the whole video and then after rewatching and stuff, I think it's time for you to seek help. Like maybe you should sign up for our June holiday program. Or if you find that your child is not able to cope with the video after watching multiple times, I think they need to have some professional help and stuff, because it is quite near to PSLE already. To be honest, it's only like 4 to 5 months to PSLE for those who are taking 2022 PSLE. So it's an intensive 4 to 8 sessions whereby I will be going through on this kind of question only, mainly heuristic and spatial visualization. Let's begin without further ado. So the question that I'm going to go through during this video is mainly on the heuristic kind of questions for ratio, and I will be going through the more commonly tested one, which are more on the 4 marks one. I will not jump into the 5 marks question for today because I'm not sure whether uh like how whether will you all be able to understand straight away. So because like there's multiple different types of questions for this kind, and I want most of you, if not all, to at least get something out of the video and learn something new, or at least have a clearer idea of the concept for this. So questions for ratio question, right, is very clear, or even if the question actually involves fraction, ratio, and percentage all at the same time, as long as you see fraction and ratio, or percentage and ratio, or even all three of them together, as long as you see ratio, right, my suggestion is always to use ratio method to solve questions of such. Do not use model because it might be too complicated, because numbers might get bigger and bigger, and if you draw model, you might have to cut into multiple small units, and it will take a lot of time in exam, and time is really precious in exam, and I don't want the student to actually panic. And on top of that, when you do ratio, one key rule that I always tell all my students is, please look out for something that is constant. The moment you find something constant, change and make them the same, and then that's when we can compare the ratio, and it makes everything easier. Always find the constant in the question for the before and after. And if you really cannot find constant, no matter how you look, like maybe none of the item are the same, the total are not the same, the differences between the items are not the same either, that will means it is a part and unit question. Okay, let's begin. So question 9 here, we have a garden, and then they mention about the ratio of the potted orchids to the number of potted ferns is 10:9, and then the ratio of the potted purple orchids to the number of potted pink orchids is 3:1. So for question like this, it's very clear cut. It's going to be a ratio question because everything is in ratio they gave us. So I'm going to just list out whatever that they say in ratio format. So we have orchids, and then we have fern. They say that it's 10:9. And then followed by the next sentence, they tell me say the orchid, there's two different kind of it. So I'm going to branch out from here. Don't do branching method for 4 marks onwards. Yeah, like if you want to branch using ratio, because it might get too complicated for you to use branching for most of the time, because the questions might look easy from the start, but then as you go on, if there's more information given, you might get confused if you branch too much out. So in this case, we have like the purple is to the pink, we have 3:1, and then the total is equals to 4. Note that I find total without them saying that I need to find total. The reason is because before I actually start the question, I already mentioned always find the constant. So in this case, my constant here is actually this part, the one that I box up in red. So constant, I need to make them the same once I identify them. So what I will do is, to make them the same, I think I want to change the number to a smallest common multiple. So lowest common multiple here, I think I can go to 20. So this will be 20 and 18. So I'll use a different color to indicate the change. So I multiply 2 on the top layer here throughout. So it's not just the item itself, I will multiply throughout. Followed by here, I will have to multiply 5 throughout as well, because to make everything like we change the whole layer. It's like if you multiply a fraction, you have to multiply top and bottom. It's the same rationale. So here I have 20 here I have 5, and then here I have 15. So now we have accidentally solved A without knowing, because it's just a subconscious thing that if you have done enough ratio question, you should know that you need to make the constant the same, regardless what the question say. Later on, it will be useful, because we want to synchronize every layer that we actually branch out in order to be able to use them later, so you won't get confused. So in this case, why I say I accidentally find A is because the question actually say that they want us to express the ratio of number of potted purple orchids to the number of potted pink orchids to the number of potted ferns. So basically we have purple and we have pink, and then we have fern. Purple basically is equals to 15, pink is equals to 5, fern is actually equals to 18. We found the answer for A. So let's move on to B. The next part for B, question actually mentioned here that there's a total of 874 potted plants in the garden. So whereby in the questions that we have all kind of units, and we are given a number, and that's the only number I have in the question note. So what I need is, I definitely need to know this is equals to how many units. That is the point whereby I can go to my next step, which is to find 1 unit. Normally this is 1 mark. So how do I find that? So they say it's total, right? So some students, they will get confused. Total meaning like which total? Because we have this total, then maybe they will just take as 20. And then that is wrong, because that is not the total potted plant. So be very careful when you start this thing, because if not, you won't even get any marks, because your 1 unit is wrong. Because some students, they will take that, divide by 20, and then start getting decimals, and they will give up on the question. Yeah, because they think, oh, I cannot have decimal for plant, which is true, you cannot have decimal for plant. But that doesn't mean that you give up. It means you read your question again. Maybe you plug the wrong number from your ratio, and that's wasted. So we have like potted plant in the garden. So meaning we need all the plant. All the plant meaning is this layer actually. And please note, is this part that we are looking at, because that is the one that we change. Yeah, so we do not have the total plant in terms of units. So I'm going to find it. So this is going to be the total. I just add 1 more column. I can easily find this by taking 20 units plus 18 units. I get 38 units. So 38 is equals to 874. Then we have 874. We divide this by 38. I think I will get 23 for this question. So after I get 23, the next thing that I will need is I will want to find the what the question want, which is how many potted fern, then potted pink orchids. Okay, another trap that careless student will actually maybe make mistake. They might, oh, okay, pink color. Okay, I'm just going to find the difference between these two, which is wrong again. So just be very careful, read the question very carefully. Potted fern versus potted pink. So I just go to pink color, I highlight the very final one that we actually have the units. Don't go and find and look at the wrong thing again. That could be another potential mistake. Then we have potted ferns. I will be going to the ferns and look at the bottom one, the one that we change. Yeah, like not the blue one, because the blue one was the very initial one before we synchronize both the top and the bottom layer to make them the same and make them comparable. So that is really important. Note that. So we have 18 units minus 5 units. We have a 13 units, which is basically what we need to find here, which is the difference between the potted ferns and the potted pink orchids. So we have 13 units, and let's just find this by multiplying by 23. 13 minus multiply by 23. What we get here is we get 299. So this is basically the answer that we managed to find for B. So take away for this question is be very careful, be very clear which layer you actually find, and very important takeaway is if you have ratio question, please find the constant and make them the same, and then read carefully in order to start finding your 1 unit to earn your marks. Okay, so that's for 9. This is considered a 4 marks question. I think A will be 1 mark and B will be 3 marks. It's considered not too tough. So if you actually have problem following this, please stay tuned or please join us for a holiday program for this upcoming June. So another question that I think is pretty common I'll go to is maybe question 13. So 13 here, you'll see things like you have like the number of girls who registered for swimming class was 20% of the number of boys. So this is like the first trap. I'll explain why is it a trap later. Girl, 20% of boys. And then second one, note that there's 12 more girls and 12 more boys turn out for the class. Okay. Then we have a second set here, which is 1/3 as many boys as many girls as boy in the class. So basically we have a before and after question. There's some change in orange color, and okay, I need to start writing it down. And some students, they will be like, huh, how I write it down? They will start to draw model, which is like what I said earlier on. If you see questions that is very hard to represent in model, I highly recommend ratio because it will speed up your process of doing it. Yeah, because ratio is already quite tedious from what we've shown just now, right? We have to change a few layers. If you do model, right, you still need to cut them and draw them. So not very advisable with time limit. So for most people, they will have problem with the first one that I mentioned, the 20% was a trap. So some student was like, oh, how do I do ratio with 20%? What does the 20% actually means? So always when you see percentage, write it in fraction. So I'm going to write it like 20 over 100. But then I would suggest you all to reduce it down. So it's just going to be 1 over 5. So I'm just showing you all the process because normally I would just write it as 1 over 5 because I think I've been doing that long enough with my students. They will get what I'm talking about. So what I need to write here is we have like girl is the boy. And then you need to know girl is the boy to total is equals to how much. So some students will be confused, huh? So girl is equals to how many units? And they might think that is girl is to boy is the total. They will think girl is 1 and then 5 is the total, which is wrong. When you have fraction, please note the in front, the on top one is always for the in front person. The behind one is always for the bottom one is always for the behind person. In this case, the in front is actually girl. And then boy is actually 5. If you want to find total, it's basically 6. So that's a common trap. Okay, going forward is just listing whatever they say in the question. They say on actual day, there's like 12 more girls and then 12 more boys that actually join the class. And then in the end, we have like 1:3, as many girls as boys in the class. Same thing for on top one for the first, and then the bottom one for the second name that appear. So in this case, right, I think I actually don't need total. The total was just to indicate and show you all the trap. Reason is because for questions that we have changed, like this, I realized that the girl changed, the boy changed. What I need to think of is what is not changed. If not, then I will need to do part and unit as what I say just now. I feel that for this question, there's something that's unchanged. Normally, we always look for either one of the item change or total. change. But this case, I think both of them, the girl, the boy changed. So it means the total also changed. But there's one thing that's unchanged, which is the difference unchanged. When we say difference unchanged, it means like the difference between the boys and girl actually is unchanged because both of them changed by the same amount. So means the difference will be unchanged. So it's like, for example, if you have like 2 girls and 3 boys at first, the difference between girls and boys is actually equals to 1. So both of them add 10. So I have 12 and 13. The difference is still 1. So some students, they don't see that. So if you don't see it, memorize that. If you see that the change is the same, it means the difference is unchanged. Note on that. So now I'm going to find the difference because we just I just said that like we are going to make the difference is basically the constant that will help us solve the question. So I have 4 here, and then the other side here is equals to 2 because 5 minus 1 is equals to 4, 3 minus 1 is equals to 2. And then we say that for ratio question, the constant is very important, right? So this part is very important. I need to make it the same in order for me to solve. So to make it the same, I will need to multiply 2 through this whole layer here. So I have 2, and then we have 6 here, and we have 4 here. So with that said, I will be focusing on these 2 layers. Oh, sorry. So I'll be focusing on these 2 layers that I box out in purple color because this is my layer that I will be doing the comparison because it's these 2 that actually we make them the same and comparable. So for students that really struggle with like, oh, later I don't know which you need to look at kind of thing, maybe you might want to have a habit of noting, like boxing it up or putting a star beside the units that you want to remind yourself to actually look at until the point whereby you are very familiar with it. Then maybe you can stop doing that, or you can do a mental note to yourself. Okay, so here, with that said, we can actually start solving already because the only numbers that we have in the whole question is 12. I only need to know 12 is equals to how many units as per what the previous question I was mentioning about. You need to know the number is equals to how many units. So in this case, we realize that the change is from here to here, which is 5 to 6. The change is basically if I take 6 units minus 5 units is 1 unit. Or if I compare the other side, which is, let's say here and here, is 2 units minus 1 unit, is still 1 unit difference. So basically the change is just 1 unit. So 1 unit is equals to 12, which means the question is actually pretty easy. I think this is maybe 3 marks. Yeah. So the next thing after I find 1 unit is always to read back the question and see what the question actually want from me. The question want the total number of children who came to the swimming class. Okay, came to swimming class means in the end, right? So I will need to find this and this, which is a total of 8 units. Please do not find 4 because 4 is total, so there's another trap that you might make careless. So I will be finding 8 units, and 8 units equals 12 times 8. I will get 96. Basically, this is my answer. I hope this is clear enough for everyone to actually catch and understand how ratio actually work and how do we actually do heuristic questions of such. So if you still have problem with this, or you find that, oh, this kind of question I still can manage, I want to do like harder questions, or you want to actually do, you are able, you want to actually to be able to do like the 5 marks questions or questions of this kind, but like maybe the more advanced level one, please stay tuned to us and please join us for our upcoming lessons, which I think will benefit you greatly or your child greatly. Okay, thank you for your time, and I hope you learned something from this video. Give me a thumbs up if you are actually learning something from this, and please share this with a friend who are interested to learn more on this kind of questions or are struggling with this kind of questions. Okay, goodbye.